Gear, do tell.
That's right. I gotta kick your ass in a hurry. It's nothing like second or third.
This kid's definitely on crack right now.
Hello everybody, I'm Renzolian, and welcome back to another mock review. Okay, truthfully, this is not a mock. I mean, technically, it's not even my own creation, although it is my own creation because I made it, but I took parts from other things to make this, and that's technically what a mock is, but it's not a Bionicle thing, it's not Lego, so would it be classified as a mock? Would it be a MOV? This is a custom action figure project I've been working on for a very long time, and I'm finally comfortable with showing and talking about it if you're interested. And of course, this project is Luffy's Gear 4 form Bounce Man. And I guarantee half of you don't know what the hell I even just said, but if you're familiar with One Piece, this should be familiar to you. Maybe, unless you're way behind and I spoiled it for you. I mean, this did happen in like 2015, so if you're not caught up yet, you probably should be caught up. So as I said before, if you don't follow One Piece or you don't know what the hell you're looking at, that's totally fine. I just want to take a moment to talk about this because this has been a very interesting experience for me. It's my first custom action figure ever, and it was a very interesting process, and I just kind of want to share it and talk about it, and if you're into that kind of thing, cool. I have been working a very long time on this guy. I think I started back in like May of 2022 or something, and the production has been pretty goddamn slow. But now that he's here and he has a form and he's pretty much 100% done, I think he's at a state where I can properly say that he's looking pretty good. Thanks to people like Robo from the Fwoosh, I'm a lot more comfortable with the idea of customizing because after watching hours and hours of his Playday content, just understanding what he's talking about, parts and pieces and all that, it's really interesting, and he's easily one of my favorite YouTubers on the entire platform right now. Go check him out if you haven't. Looking at bodies and options, and Gear 4 Luffy isn't exactly built like this. This is kind of a rougher version of what he should look like. Gear 4 Luffy's more formed like a balloon, with tiny little stick legs and big buff arms. But truthfully, that kind of body doesn't really exist, at least not one with articulation and one in this scale. So the body is a Red Hulk body, which is actually a pretty valuable body, so I think a lot of Marvel Legends fans are probably cringing at the fact that I used this for a Red Hulk, but it's okay. I replaced him with the Marvel Select Red Hulk, so it's fine. But that was my first major point. I was like, okay, I got the body, I got the arms, now it's time to figure out the legs. Now, Kasai was a huge help throughout this entire process, so major shoutouts to him every step of the way. But while we were trying to come up with the process of what his legs were going to be, and if we could even do tiny legs like the Gear 4 Luffy has little chicken legs, and a pair of legs popped into my head, but I didn't know how to place it or where they were, and the Kasai was like, oh, you could try the movie Venom legs, and it just snapped into place. Those were the same legs I was thinking of. We were on the exact same wavelength, and it worked out perfectly. I remember the day I actually had to split these legs apart. I was very nervous. Kasai and I were on a call. We were just trying to figure it out, and I wasn't up to the task of making sure that they would fit together. I said, you know what, I'm gonna let Kasai do that. I was gonna mail this off to Kasai. All he needed was the legs. He was gonna put them together, and he did a really good job. There is articulation. I think he actually cut too much of the joint off because you can see he had to add or mold a new joint in there. It does work. I'm not going to go crazy with it or anything, but it does actually do its job. You can get a pretty good bend out of it, which is good. I mean, I kind of knew from the get-go that this wasn't going to be a hyper-articulated figure, you know? Just something that would work on the shelf. You'd think he'd have a harder time standing up, but surprisingly not. I mean, he's not leaning against anything right now with all of his weight being counteracted. These legs are surprisingly sturdy, so yeah, I'm honestly kind of shocked about that. But the only issue... Okay. One of the biggest hurdles for us was the head, of course. And now, there weren't many options available. You know, there were statues and stuff, but you don't know the scale of statues, and they're also so expensive you wouldn't want to buy one and just have it not work. It would have been kind of lame. Could have commissioned something and had Kasai paint it, but I don't think he was really comfortable with that, painting all the small details, and also it just would have been so expensive to commission something like that. But I will say we did have luck. We found this little Bandai statue line of these little mini chibi statues, and they're kind of shitty. They look kind of lame, but I figured, hey, that might be perfect scale. The only problem with the little Bandai statue is that it was pretty hard to find. There was a pack of like 5 of them on Big Bad Toy Store, but it was like $60, and I was like, do I really want to spend more, over $60 on just one statue and then just have the rest of them sitting around? No, not really. The ones on eBay were like over $100 for some reason. I don't even know why. However, we did get lucky. I found this one on Mother's Base. It was like $25, and that was a pretty good price for it. I bought it, it arrived, it was super easy to rip the head off. I did a ton of dremeling to make that work. When I visited Kasai, he actually made sure to put some hot glue in the head to kind of form a socket, and it worked perfectly. It moves, it articulates, it actually functions instead of having to just put tack on it. So I packed this up and I sent it to Kasai, and he had it for a couple months just to work on it. I think he painted the pants, which was nice, but he also included this little cloth section on the pants. Works really well. We could have sculpted it or something, but I actually like this fur technique a little bit more. It is a little funky. Again, it's a little big, but I actually really don't mind it. I actually think it works totally well for what it's worth. Trust me when I tell you that the process of painting this guy was just incessant. I just went over multiple layers with this dude. I didn't sand him down, which was my big mistake, but I did go back and definitely do a lot of changes with the paint overall. The tattoo kind of marking is a little bit messy, which I'm not a huge fan of. However, again, it should have been done a little bit finer, I'll admit. But I did go back and kind of touch it up here and there, and it's still messy, but it is much better than when it first started. The scar I actually penciled out, and it was originally a much brighter pink, as you can kind of see. Kasai was like, that looks ugly, go back and fix that. And I did, and it looks way more natural now. I wasn't even going to paint nipples on this guy, but Kasai also, again, insisted I paint nipples, which, you know, a little goofy, but it actually looks way better with nipples, although they are, again, it's all kind of messy. You can definitely tell this was not the best paint job ever. It's not as clean as it should be, but in my opinion, it totally gets the job done. You can see the arms. I went over this black, I did red, I did like just paint it on, and then I did some dry brushing. I did a lot of work on these arms to get them to look right. Some would argue that they probably should be a bit more red, but in my opinion, this is how hockey arms should look. It should look black with some red highlights to make it look like a really metallic, cool red. And honestly, with the shine, I think it just looks perfect. I have no complaints with the way that this is done. The paint does chip, unfortunately, especially here. You can see some paint chipping, and definitely around the shoulder area there. It's unfortunate. The wrists are definitely chipping for sure. You can see that. I don't mind. Those are joints that kind of are going to chip. The pants, I went over them with a white dry brush, and it looks so much better. If I just left them blue, it would have looked really plain, but that white dry brush really brought out a ton of details. And the legs, honestly, not as impressive as the arms, but they still look cool. Luffy does have gross gimp feet, and you're probably wondering, what about his sandals? Luffy has sandals, doesn't he? Well, in this Gear 4 scene, when he transforms, he actually kicks them off. I don't know if that's accurate to the manga or not, but in the anime, they specifically, explicitly animate him kicking them off, while also in the same fight scene, he does kick Doflamingo and have his sandals on, which is really stupid. But yeah, so I don't mind him having bare feet. Again, they are kind of gross-looking Luffy feet, but again, it's kind of a monstrous transformation, so I don't really mind. Wondering why it's so shiny, we did do a clear coat on it, and that actually brought out a ton of details on him, so that's why he's super shiny. Again, it totally works for the arms. The arms are absolutely the reason to have done it. The torso, not so much, but it still looks good. I still like it. It definitely fits this form of Luffy very, very much. So I'm a fan of the paint job overall. I think Kasai and I did a really good job. Well, actually, I guess I did most of the painting, but Kasai helped with the clear coat. We did multiple layers for the arms, a couple layers for the torso, just one layer for the pants, I think, and then like 3 layers for the legs or something like that. You guys might be wondering about the vest here, and this is actually a commission by Rebel 10 Customs. She did a really good job with this. She was extremely helpful. I did not think she'd be able to pull this off. I don't know why. I mistook her abilities, because this is great. The logo is perfect. The shade is perfect. Some people would argue that this shirt that he wears in Dressrosa is supposed to be black, but honestly, it's blue in the anime, so it's blue in my opinion. Again, the logo is just perfect. She did such a good job with it. It is a little tight. It's never coming off this guy, unfortunately, just because of how he's designed. Great job all around. It's so perfect. Again, the collar was a little high when it first came out. It was kind of sitting at an awkward position, but Kasai did offer to glue it down, and now it's perfect. It sits perfectly in my opinion, and it is exactly where it should be. The sash, or the belt, or whatever you want to call it, isn't perfect, but again, it is a pretty good looking thing. Originally, I took this kind of wool fabric and like wrapped it around, and I did this stupid thing where I just put a Sharpie on it to make it like shade it, and it looked terrible. So Kasai and I were shopping, we were looking at Hobby Lobby, and I picked up this yellow t-shirt and used it there, and honestly it looks pretty good. Again, it does get a little messy right around there, but that's also got a dual purpose behind it, and you might obviously be able to tell he's got a big ass cloud. It is on a wire. I don't like moving it. It's kind of mixed with glue and everything, but it is, you know, you can move it around a little bit, but it doesn't really move in the show. It just kind of sits there and does cloud things. It's there for visual appearance. I wasn't even going to include this on my custom, but Kasai felt like we should do it, and also he could do it, and yeah, it's really dope, honestly. It is really cool. It could be a little clearer, I guess, but again, I'm not going to be that nitpicky about it. In my opinion, it's perfect, and I just love it. Especially with how important this cloud is. Well, I say how important. It's a very important image with Luffy's transformations, so I think not including it would have been a big mistake. So I'm glad Kasai convinced me to do it, because honestly, it just looks sick as hell. You guys can kind of see some of the magic fall apart here. The wire actually goes underneath the sash here. So it does kind of fall apart when you look at it like that, but I mean, where else was it going to go? I don't think anyone's really going to care. It's a cool looking thing. The thing is, this ain't coming off anytime soon. This cloud is like stuck to him. I couldn't even remove it if I really wanted to, but not like I'd ever want to, because he looks so good with it on anyways that I really... Oh, just look at that. That's perfect. As I was saying earlier, articulation isn't crazy or anything. I also don't want to get too rowdy with him because I'm worried stuff might scratch off, but for the most part, you can get him in a lot of those crazy Luffy poses. I do need to get a really good heavy-duty stand for him. I currently have him with this shitty Superman McFarlane stand, but the problem is standing it up right here does not work. It's too light. I need something heavier to hold him up, because he will fall probably. But for the most part, he's pretty stable on the ground. He does stand up. The cloud does make him a little awkward, but trust me, you can make it work. You just kind of got to be a little bit patient with it. You have to make sure those feet are flat on the floor, but you can get him in a nice pose like this. And this is how he's going to be most of his life. He's just going to sit there and look like a badass. And it just, in my opinion, it just looks so good. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, because truthfully, I didn't really fully make this. This is a lot of Kasai's work. He did a lot of this. So again, huge shout out to him throughout the entire video. Obviously, he was a major reason why this figure even got made. The only thing that would be a huge bonus is he had some open, like, palmed hands, because he does do that. Oh, that would have been dope. But as far as I know, those type of hands don't exist with this like scale. So I will offer a quick side note. This version of Luffy usually does have a straw hat hanging on his back. So I have one straw hat available. This is the Anime Heroes one. It's kind of shitty. It doesn't go on Luffy's head at all, so it's not really, you know, it's not a big, huge waste to just throw it on this guy's back. I don't really know what I'm going to do. I could try hanging it off the back, but this isn't going to be long enough. I was thinking about filling it with tack and just sticking it on the back. I don't know what I'm going to do. I probably should just get an actual string and connect it through, and I want to repaint this hat, though, because on camera it looks kind of fine, but in person it's a lot more beige than yellow. I prefer the straw hat looking yellow. That's a personal thing. I'm weird for thinking that, but it's true. So yeah, I need to do some repainting on this or something and then just slap it to his back. That's the last little extra piece I need to do, and then he's basically done. Here's Bounce Man next to the Raid on Onigashima SH Figure Arts Luffy, and in my opinion, this is perfect scale. I guess Bounce Man should technically be a bit bigger. I mean, he's like over 10 feet, I think. But in my opinion, this is perfect scale. I have no problems with this. I like the difference in the head sizes. It's not too much bigger, but it is still just a bit bigger. And just overall, the shaping is just exactly where I imagine this form of Luffy. If SH ever gets around to it, I'm expecting it to probably be like right here. I don't think it'll be nearly as big as my custom, but this is sort of the scale that I think is most perfect, and I do think they look quite good next to each other. The SH Figure Arts Zoro, one of the worst figures I have in my entire collection, the Anime Heroes Luffy, and I guess this scale works too, but ugh. And the Imagination Works Luffy, and I don't think this scale works at all, but that's okay. And here's a Marvel Legends Spider-Man, Marvel Legends Astonishing Ant-Man, and of course my head on a Kingpin body, because why the hell not? Hey kid, you should come work for me. Those muscles might be mighty useful. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't do a lot of mocking nowadays. I don't do a lot of customizing stuff. I just generally don't have time to do it nowadays, and it bums me out because I used to love making mocks. And I'd love to do more reviews of them, but truthfully, I just haven't had the time. But this Luffy, over the course of the year that it took to make him, I am thoroughly happy with the results. There aren't a lot of One Piece customizers out there making 1/12 scale custom One Piece action figures. I mean, they exist, but they're very few and far between. So this was mostly a single-handed project. This was a project that not a lot of other people were doing, and I definitely just wanted to go to see if I could do it. And in my opinion, I think we did it. I think it turned out pretty good. Is it perfect? God, no. Does it have its problems? Absolutely. But for the most part, I think this turned out exactly the way how I wanted it, and if I could imagine how it would have looked when I started working on this back in May of 2022, I think I would have been really proud of myself. I think it turned out exactly the way I wanted. There weren't very many hiccups along the way. There were some minor things, but for the most part, I didn't have to start from scratch. I didn't have to get any new parts. We didn't hit a snag anywhere. For the most part, he turned out exactly the way I wanted him to, and I'm incredibly happy about it. One Piece has quickly become one of my favorite series ever. I just love the goofy, raw silliness of it, and just how it can also make you feel like, whoa, that's badass. This form is the peak definition of that. It is so stupid looking, objectively dumb and moronic, but somehow the moment when it happens is so goddamn cool. I wanted to make a figure that fully represented what One Piece was to me. Something inherently stupid and goofy, but something that just can also be really cool and really awesome to look at. So for the sake of brevity, I've had to very quickly run through the process of how I made this guy, but if you want to see a much more step-by-step process of how everything came together, that's all on my Instagram. You can see my mind, how the gears are turning when I'm making this. Once again, I really genuinely have to thank Bionic Kasai or Tyler. He was a major part of this, and like I said earlier, if he hadn't been on board with this project, if he hadn't decided to help me at all, this wouldn't have happened. His words of encouragement, him helping and make stuff and suggesting things and doing little critiques here and there, had he not have done any of that, this would not have ever been made. So genuinely, thank you very much, Kasai. I hope to work with you again very, very soon. Maybe you're thinking, Renzo, you plan on doing any more of these? Maybe not One Piece customs, not right away. There's too many goofy characters and the parts for them are all kind of hard to find. This was a generally easy one to tackle. Easy, but like there are some characters I really want to make. I'm just going to hold off for now. But I've already got my next custom in mind. I already know what I'm planning on doing for that. I'm very excited to show you guys what that will be, and I'll be sure to talk about it in a future video. With that being said, thank you ladies and gentlemen for watching the video. I love you all very much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
What are you going to do, bounce me to death?